Design thinking really is a mindset. It's an approach to challenges in a very generative way. It's a way of envisioning new ideas. It's a way of coming up with innovative solutions. It enables you to really build an understanding first, design based on that understanding, and then iterate your solutions over and over again until you ultimately get to something that works. So I would say there are four things that define design thinking and ultimately also define a design thinker. One of them is optimism. It's believing that a different world is possible. The optimism that every child can learn and every child can improve. A second thing is it's collaborative. Inherently means that you work in teams, that you believe in working together is going to create a better outcome rather than doing it alone. Design thinking is human-centered. It starts with a very empathetic understanding of the people you are designing for. Another characteristic is it's experimental. That's difficult in an educational context because educators inherently are meant to be role models. So being experimental is a little difficult to actually say, I'll just try this out. I have no idea if this is going to work. Educators are designers. They create new curriculum, they create new learning tools, they create new methods and tools of what they can use in their classroom. They think of new ways to test. So they design solutions all the time. It's just that they don't necessarily always do that in such an intentional way. And with a toolkit, we wanted to give them tools to be more intentional about their design process. We were working with educators. They had come to IDEO asking us to help them design future concepts for teaching and learning. We took them along and integrated them in our team and essentially exposed them to the design thinking process. And we saw such a phenomenal transformation in those teachers. They started to really look at their work so differently, and obstacles that had seemed insurmountable before all of a sudden seemed like a challenge that they could actually take as an opportunity and design for it. Just observing that made us think, wouldn't it be fabulous to be able to really offer that methodology to so many more teachers? We had that great idea, but it took several years until we could actually realize that. In part that was because we simply needed a partner that we could work with. We did find that partner in Riverdale Country Schools in the Bronx. That school has a very visionary headmaster, Dominic Randolph. He had read Tim Brown's book, and he was just very interested in that idea of design thinking and exploring it. We could have never done this without the collaboration with Riverdale's teachers. We worked super closely together with them to actually really design the toolkit, to have them review what we had done. They shaped what it is, and they're a really important collaborator in doing this. We didn't only want to look at Riverdale Country School, which is a private school, but we also went into several public schools. We were sitting in kindergarten with the tiny little kids that were playing. We were sitting in 7th and 8th grade classes that were discussing very complex English literature things or learning math. We had sessions with teachers where we brought them together to understand their barriers, their frustrations, what they loved about their jobs. We of course also talked to administrators. So we got this really broad understanding of how a school works, really from K through 12. We spent probably 2 or 3 days just talking through what we had experienced. We really started with a question of what was interesting, what was fascinating, what was surprising. And we put all that information on Post-it notes and started going through a process that we refer to as synthesis and saying, what are the big themes and patterns that we see? And we had those principles up on the wall, essentially saying this is what we need to keep in mind as we're designing this. The question that was behind that for us was, how could design thinking be useful in that context? What are the frustrations and barriers that teachers experience? We got kind of really heads down at certain points of the process and needed someone to pull us out of there and show us the bigger picture. Sandy Spiker was a really good guide for us to refer back to and to share our ideas with. We constantly shared our work with each other. It wasn't about saying this is right or this is wrong, it was about making it better together. We have written many descriptions of our process over the years, and so we took all those and pinned them up and then looked through them in basically saying, what do you think will really resonate with educators? We put up the pages that then ultimately formed the toolkit. We kept reordering them, and all of that was a very hands-on and very visual process. We brought in a team of teachers and had them look through that, and they helped us really find the right expressions. We thought about this first edition very much as a prototype. It was meant to be a starting point for our conversation, and that's really what it became. We contacted about 600 educators who had downloaded that initial version of the toolkit. We collected the feedback of how people were using it and what worked and what didn't work. And then we revamped the toolkit and created a second edition that took that into account. Educators really wanted to know where to start. A big question they often had was, yes, that all sounds great, and what do I use it for? And so we made sure to integrate a lot of examples of how that would be valuable. We have lots of worksheets at IDEO that we create for workshops and that we try to give people to really know what the steps are that they take in the design thinking process. Teachers love workbooks. They really wanted to have a workbook. And so we have created a workbook that accompanies that second edition. Our second version isn't perfect either. We're already thinking about the third. What's so fantastic about it is that it is publicly available for free for everyone around the world. We're seeing educators using the toolkit, but not only in classrooms. We're seeing teachers use it, we're seeing administrators use it, we're seeing headmasters use it to redefine how career navigation works in their schools. We're seeing districts use it to rethink the entire structure of their district. And we've seen regions use it more on a governmental level. The fact that the design thinking toolkit has reached across those levels is something that we couldn't have expected. And having seen that is really encouraging.